The Royal College of Physicians, or RCP, has two main buildings, one in Liverpool and this one next to Regent's Park in London. Our London building is one of only a few post-Second World War buildings to be Grade 1 listed, and many people consider it to be a modernist masterpiece.
Hello, I'm Felix Lancashire, I'm the Assistant Archivist here at the RCP, and today I thought we could have a rummage in the archives to see what the original records tell us about how this unique building came to be.
Since 1824, the RCP had been based in Pall Mall East, what was to become the edge of Trafalgar Square. But by the late 1950s, we were running out of space. One solution, as this drawing made in 1957 shows, was to extend our existing building. The artist's impression shows what our Trafalgar Square building would have looked like with a complete extra floor added to the top.
So this was one vision for the RCP's future, but in fact it was an even more ambitious idea that would win the day. The RCP had already moved house 3 times since its founding in 1518, and now the college decided it was time to move again and to commission a whole new building. And the first task was to find a suitable location.
Summery's house on the edge of Regent's Park had been damaged by bombing during the war and was due to be demolished. The RCP decided that this scenic spot would be perfect for its new building.
The next step was to choose an architect. The RCP formed a building committee to take the project forward. One member of that committee was Dr. Harold Boldero, and we're lucky to have many of his notes from the time, which give us a first-hand glimpse into the workings of the committee. Here are Boldero's notes about the various architects suggested by members of the committee.
Boldero's notes suggest that the RCP was looking for a modern, contemporary architect to shake up the college's image. They narrowed their choices down to a short list of 5. Maxwell Fry, partners Philip Powell and Hidalgo Moya, Henry Thomas Cadbury Brown, Sidney Cusdin, and Denys Lasdun. Boldero often makes note of the architect's ages, and here he has written, "If we go for a very young man, then competition." Each of the final 5 was invited to interview at the college. One of the candidates, Denys Lasdun, was on holiday at the time, but luckily the invite was forwarded to him in Cheshire, and he wrote us this nice letter saying he would certainly like to be considered as the architect for our important project. To support his application, Lasdun sent us this list of his previous work, which included housing estates in London, a primary school, and the National Museum of Ghana.
So now it was time to interview the candidates. Harold Boldero was on the interview panel, and thanks to these, the actual notes that he made at the time, we can be a time-travelling fly on the wall at those interviews.
Henry Thomas Cadbury Brown was a prestigious name, as he had already designed the Royal College of Art. But even though he was very young, for some reason Boldero felt he was not terribly clever with the committee, and Boldero didn't fancy him as our number 1. Powell and Moya obviously had their own ideas. They said they weren't interested in simply placing an imitation of the RCP's existing building in Regent's Park. But they had a busy schedule and wouldn't be able to let us know if they were available for 2 or 3 weeks. Maxwell Fry impressed Boldero with his lively mind, which was full of ideas, and the interview appeared to have been going well, until Fry dropped this bombshell. He had not been to see the site of the new building. Denys Lasdun, on the other hand, was better prepared. He thought it was a great site, even if it presented difficulties for a modern, authentic architect such as himself. Lasdun had some impressive buildings to his name, but, Boldero observed, he liked to fight all the authorities. Would this independent quality work in Lasdun's favour, or turn the committee against him?
The interviews were over, and it was time for the committee to vote. We even have here what appears to be a record of the committee coming to its final decision.
It looks as though the competition was neck and neck between Denys Lasdun and Sidney Cusdin, with Boldero appearing to favour Cusdin, even though he'd barely made any notes during his interview. But it was Lasdun that had caught the attention of RCP President Robert Platt, who wanted the new building to reflect his vision for the college as an outward-facing, forward-looking organisation. Platt had the casting vote, and the RCP commissioned Denys Lasdun to design for us our fifth building in our then 450-year history.
The members of the college were keen to contribute their ideas. Dr. Neville Southwell sent this letter to Robert Platt, suggesting a specific item of decor for the new building.
Southwell was a big fan of William Harvey, the physician who had discovered blood circulation in the 17th century, and he enclosed a photograph of a mantelpiece that had supposedly belonged to Harvey, suggesting that we include the mantelpiece in the RCP's new home. Lasdun took one look at the photo and quickly sent back this reply, saying he didn't think the mantelpiece would be suitable since the new building would not be using coal fireplaces. In any event, Lasdun couldn't resist adding, "I do not really like it very much, but this of course is only personal."
Lasdun produced 3 proposals for the new building, varying in complexity and price. The simplest and cheapest, Lasdun called the box plan, because it was just a square 5-storey box.
The other 2 Lasdun dubbed the court plan, versions A and B. Both versions would involve demolishing not just Summary's house, but also demolishing, or at least modifying, several of the houses on Albany Street, which runs along the east side of the site. The college opted for version A, the most expensive, and as this plan shows, they ended up demolishing all the houses along that stretch of Albany Street.
With the rough idea agreed upon, Lasdun set about producing these detailed architectural plans of the RCP's new home.
One of Lasdun's fun ideas for the building was that because physicians treated the human body, their building should itself be like a living organism, with each room representing a different organ. The census room, where physicians traditionally took their final exams before becoming members of the college, was the heart of the building. The central staircase was the main artery, transporting new doctors, the lifeblood of the college, from the census room to the Dorchester Library, which of course is the brain of the building. When Lasdun was studying the activities of the people who worked at the college, he realised that the organisation had many different functions and therefore needed a flexible space. One innovative feature was this moving wall in the dining room. A control panel in the wall is used to make the wall rise or lower, allowing the space to function as 2 smaller meeting rooms or one large function venue. Lasdun included space for us to store, display and access our museum, library and archive collections. He even included a book repair room. This was wishful thinking, we never ended up getting the book repair room, but at least Lasdun also thought to include a librarian's lavatory. In fact, all the building's occupants had their own assigned lavatory, which was just as well, as one particular occupant would be living here full time. Lasdun included the president's flat on the 2nd floor.
With the plans drawn up, construction could now begin. These photos chart the progress of the project from the laying of the foundation stone by Queen Elizabeth the Queen Mother to the opening of the building in 1964.
Summary's house was demolished, and the RCP emerged in its place.
Well, thanks for joining me on this journey through the archives, looking at the genesis of our London building. In normal times, all these documents, as well as all our other archives, museum objects and library collections, would be available for anyone to access here at the college, but I hope you've enjoyed getting a flavour of the documents in this video.
Be sure to check out the RCP's other open house events, including a virtual tour and Q&A with Lasdun expert Barnabas Calder, taking place at 4 p.m. on Saturday the 19th of September. You can find out more at history.rcplondon.ac.uk/events.